people.
Joe Meek is often described as the British equivalent of Phil Spector, and there are parallels with other producers of the era, such as the paranoia of Brian Wilson when Meek believed his house was bugged, etc. How do you think Meek really fits into rock history as a sort of strange oddity, or the first independent producer kind of thing?
February the 3rd, that's what it is. It's February the 3rd. It's, as you know, Buddy Holly died on February the 3rd, which is a date that Joe Meek predicted his death and wrote down February the 3rd and gave him a note backstage at the Albert Hall, I think it was. And that year came and went, and it was actually the following year that he died. But on February the 3rd, Joe Meek committed suicide. His life came to an abrupt halt on February the 3rd. February the 3rd is the day that Phil Spector shot what's her name, the aspiring young actress, in his house. February the 3rd is also the day that Sid Vicious killed Nancy. It's a bad day to be a musician. Brian Wilson, I read Brian's book. I met him once, which was hilarious. But I don't know. I never really thought of the comparison between Brian Wilson and Joe Meek. But of course, yeah, they are very, very strong comparisons.
I was thinking Brian, of course, believed that Phil Spector had bugged his house, etc.
No, not only Brian. You used to do business meetings sat in a sand pit. You had to be buried up to your neck in sand because of the bad vibes. But there's something interesting about people that hear music in their head. They think everyone else can hear it, and that's whether that's madness or genius. I think it is a case of that. But there's this great idea that with Joe that music comes from other planets. That it's an energy. It's an energy force that you can tap into, and you can tap into it via a seance, or you can tap into it via mind-altering drugs, or you can tap into it via whatever process it is. And that's something which it means that all of those guys that you mentioned, music producers that also write, which is the thing they've all got in common. Brian Wilson was a great producer, but first and foremost, he wrote all the songs for the Beach Boys. Great music producers that write stuff as well as sort of like shaman. It's painting in sound, and maybe that doesn't make you the sanest of people.
Finally, just briefly, Margaret Thatcher, of course, rates Telstar amongst one of her favourite records, choosing it for her Desert Island Discs. How do you rate Telstar, and also, what's your favourite Joe Meek production?
Tune-wise, the best tunes are in the film. Cruel Daddy Simone's, which is the second play-out tune, is absolutely brilliant. I mean, it's play that next to anybody. And I also like that Packer Beats, the opening number, the theme from The Traitor, which we dug that out. Thought, well, this should have been an enormous hit. Why wasn't that? There's all these tunes that should have been massive. So I think, those two. My favourite tunes are the ones that are in the film. Telstar, my editor was really scratching his head saying, well, what do you do with this? It's just the same all the way through, really. Blah, 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 blah. But, apart from the fact the production was pretty much a generation ahead of its time. What's important about Telstar, why the bit in the film, in our film works, that Telstar section works, and why everybody gets excited about it, is because it's the achievement. It's not necessarily the tune. Yeah, it's a lovely little whistle-along tune with a few, with great production on it. But it's in mono, and it's sort of dated, with the sort of digital age. But it was the first British #1 in America. It sold 3 million copies. It was the biggest selling record of all time. It won an Ivor Novello Award. It was covered by everybody. It couldn't be a bigger achievement. That's what's amazing about it. Not necessarily the song. The reason the film's called Telstar isn't because that song warrants a movie about it. That tune that warrants a movie about it. The reason the film's called Telstar is that every now and then a spark of genius comes from somewhere and changes your life completely. And how do you deal with that when that happens? If you suddenly sell 3 million records, what do you do next? The film's about the period between the success comes in the first 5, 10, 15 minutes. End of Reel 1, they've had a #1. End of Reel 2, they've had the biggest selling record of all time. I think what people miss with this movie is that it's about what do you do? How far do you go to keep your dreams alive when your expectations have been exceeded so greatly? My favourite line in the film, which nobody gets, is "I'll finish this track if it kills me," and it's very subtle, you know. And ultimately, that's what happened. This song came along and changed everybody's lives, not necessarily for the better. And it's about the power and the consequences of that song.